Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Veg Networking Canada. It is important for us to acknowledge, honor, and respect that many of us are located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of many Indigenous peoples of Canada. So here we are, another episode of Veg Networking Canada, a community where vegan plant-based companies connect and collaborate. Today, we have a special guest who has always been fascinated with high fashion and nature. He is an advocate for social change with a focus on stories and meanings. And he's on a mission to refine fashion so culture and people's lives within it can be enriched. Veg Networking Canada is pleased to introduce the design director and founder of Segan. Welcome, Mahdi Terani.
Pleasure to be here.
So why don't we jump right in and you can tell us a little bit more about you personally in terms of your own evolution as it relates to being vegan plant-based.
For sure. Just before I start, there might be a noise in the background. I have to stay home today because the office was flooded. But yeah, so basically, it all started around 2019, 22, where basically like, I wanted to always, I was really interested in fashion and I studied a little bit of design. But I really wanted to find a way to improve fashion. And it was a lot of trial and errors, a lot of like over years and years. But basically, I found that the sustainability is a trend nowadays. But it's just a trend, and I wanted to find a way to actually solve most of the problems that fashion has. And I think that goes to the essence of how people define fashion, and it's usually just based on trends. But I wanted to make it more about meanings and sort of create another category within the fashion industry. So when you go out to our website, the first thing you see is basically us explaining that this is a different category and trying to explain what that category includes and what we're doing differently.
Gotcha. And in terms of your own sort of evolution, origin story around becoming an entrepreneur and making that step, were you an entrepreneur before Segan, or is this sort of your entrepreneurial start?
Yeah, 100%. Like even before that, I was involved in too many different businesses. I always wanted to solve problems, and I was kind of crazy enough to think that I can actually make a change. I think that definitely helps. And to be a risk taker and actually think that you can solve problems. And yeah, and I enjoy it. It's a very long and exhausting process, but I love doing it over and over whenever I get a chance. And this was, but I've never done something this big, just because this was a long-term commitment. It's like pretty much you're putting your life, not only what you have, but in the future also, just into one company.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the entrepreneur, the definition of entrepreneurship, essentially, like if anybody correct me, anybody can correct me if we're wrong, but looking it up, it's really taking on a financial risk with the reward being, greater financial return. So that's sort of the definition of entrepreneurship, which is, pulling up your boots and jumping in the deep end and,
Exactly.
having that risk in terms of financial risk for financial reward. So you mentioned trends a little bit already. So can you speak to trends and maybe not trends in the sense that like they'll come and go, maybe even more transformations in your
Right.
space in terms of ethical high fashion?
Oh, you mean in the industry or in the company?
Yeah, both if you want, either or
Yeah, for
both.
sure. So basically, so there's so many different trends within fashion, but I think how I look at it is that they all kind of fall into category of trends, and meaning that they all go back to how like what's the new thing, how we can sell more products with that new thing. Whether that be like coming up with games, coming up with virtual reality and all that. But to us, we wanted to make a different category called meanings, and we wanted to see how we can actually connect the people, to the artisans, to the products, and make it more valuable. Like one of the things that we've done is that we are attaching the signature of who was making your product to that product. Like the bags that we have out there right now, we have two artisans specifically for them, and they put their names on the product. So that's one step to make it more meaningful. The other one is that we're focusing on, like, we're not doing any discounts. We're not promoting like that. Like if you go to our website, we have an ongoing $0 off promotion, which basically plants one tree and have you on our sort of email list that we send out any one email like every 2 months pretty much to like update people. And then the other thing is that we're trying to be more transparent because a lot of companies want to be transparent, or they want to be transparent, but just that because you have shareholders, right? You have just the whole business is based on trends, so we can't really be transparent. But with the system that we were making, we're basically having we created already a portal for the users and we're working on like reports and stuff to put up so they can check like how we're doing financially, where the money is going to, how much the artists are getting paid, right? And even like our workshop is going to be done in about a month, and the idea behind it is to have like do more content on how the products are being made, so you can see by yourself. It's not a the exact, not the exact location, but you know where they are, you know how they're being treated. You can see the artisans making your product. Yeah, so this more of like connection, right? Making it more meaningful. And also when you do that, it also becomes sustainable, because when you feel connected to a product, you most likely gonna keep it. And it's not a trend that you have to like jump on the next one and you cannot ditch the product or whatever you have. So, and like the other thing that we're doing is that everyone's talking about sustainability, but we have a specific page called on sustainability. And what we believe in is that no company can ever be sustainable, but they can be circular. So like we can, like we're always taking something from the nature, so we can't be sustainable, but we can take that thing and sort of circulate that. And like with the leather that we have, it's 100% plastic free and also vegan. So and also it's recyclable. So the product that we make at the end, we can fully recycle that product except the thread, because right now there's no thread in the market that's can be recycled. So that's pretty much like 99% of the product can be actually recycled. So doing things like that, like thinking about the products not just as a design piece, but more of like what it's doing to the lives of people and animals, and just the earth in general. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, the majority of people listening to this are definitely on board with a transformation in the fashion industry to be moving towards the circular economy and uh, getting ahead of when you extract something, how can it be put back? So that's great. Absolutely. So next question for you, Maddie, is centered around future growth for Segan. So it usually is helpful for those listening if you can take some time to walk us up kind of from inception to where we are now, and then that kind of sets the table for what's coming in terms of future and growth. And before you jump into that, just
Yeah.
to confirm for those listening, Segan's still a private company.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, in terms of transparency, you were talking about, you're right. Private companies have that ability to maybe not be as transparent, but it sounds like you guys are shifting that narrative. So yeah, why don't you walk us through sort of how it started, where you are now, and then what's in the future?
For sure. Technically it's officially it's been about half a year that Segan is sort of up and running and like into to the public. But the like we were from the day we started, we wanted to define this new category, and because it's new, because it's something that I think no company is really doing in high-end fashion world. Um, Basically, we're just trying to add more and more, and like describing it in more depth. Right now we're opening our workshop, our own workshop, in about a month in Mexico, in Leon, and and again, like, having our own artisans. Before that, we had our own artisans, but they were part of a factory, which limits us, in the content creation side, in the, like, actually staying true to, all the values, all the things that we have. So that's one of the big things that's coming up. And right now we have two products out, um, and it's basically one style of bag, but in two different sizes, and four different variations. But the idea is to we're now working on some different products and different accessories, even clothing. But we want to take our time to make sure that they also carry the values and the meanings that we are trying to put out in the world. Like, for example, we're trying to have the new products that are coming out to tell stories, like would have different designs that would be related to a story. And we're dealing with a lot of challenges because, again, like, it's never been done before. Um, so, like, for example, you would know, like, let's say if you wanted to create this shirt, we would have designs and, and text and stuff to tell a story, and it would be connected to something, so it would actually make it meaningful. And we would also have this. It still would have the name of the person who made that, like, this specific product. So we're keeping some stuff, but also we're trying to add more and more as we're going deeper and deeper. And the future, we're hoping to really, with this new workshop, create a lot more content around the production, and put out the new products within this year, because to be really honest, like, it's very easy to make products if you just want to make products, with, like, different designs. But if you want to focus on the meanings, that's a whole new ball game. Like, you have to really do your own research, do a lot of looking around, do a lot of trial, a lot of tests, to make sure that, it is exactly what you want it to be. Otherwise, just another product.
Yeah, absolutely. And so can you tell us more about why Mexico?
Yeah, so it's time wise, it works the best, because we are located in Vancouver, and Leon is basically 2 hours ahead. So it works in that way. Works pretty good. And also, Leon, they have a lot of there are a lot of skilled workers, a lot of skilled artisans, who can help us with this. Like, when I started, I really looked in Canada, Western Canada, Vancouver specifically, but the skills that you're looking for are pretty much gone. Like, people can make things, like, very um easy to make products. Let's say a shirt, a t-shirt, something like that. But, like, when we're talking about bags, accessories, they're actually pretty hard to make, and it would be very costly to train people here to make them. And also, because I knew a lot of people on their own, who could help us with, like, actually bringing this idea to life, because that's also another thing you need. You need people who have experience in the industry, and of course, a lot of people, like, not a lot of people that we worked in the past with believe in the same ideas, but that's how you can make it work, right? That's how you can use their help, and then create your own sort of path, and just get the skill so you can build upon.
Well, Viva la Mexico, and I'm sure there's a lot of people local to you in Canada who would like to hop down south and go to a workshop or sort of
Exactly.
have that happening. So that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. So next question, always no right, no wrong answer. Maybe it's something you want to answer from a personal lens or maybe from the company lens. But the question is centered around charities, giving back. You can, what does that mean to you? Are there any charitable organizations that you or the company support or anything like that?
For sure. Yeah, so we plant 8 trees for every carrier's product to through one tree planted. And But going forward, like for different products, it's gonna be different thing, because we don't want to come across as a brand that is just being sustainable and planting trees. But that's kind of like a on the side, like extra. So we want the focus to be on the meanings, on what we're doing so differently, because to be frank, like planting trees is such an easy thing to do, to sell more product. But we want to make sure that people are seeing the hard work, the actual like defining this new category, the meaning category. But we definitely want to give back in some sort of way. And again, that can be also related to the story that we're doing. Let's say, for example, if we're doing a collection or product about the First Nations of Canada, then that, let's say, instead of planting 8 trees, that money would go to an organization related to the story, right? So again, like it sort of builds upon the story, like, and makes it richer.
Definitely makes it richer, absolutely, and it also helps keep things fresher too.
Exactly.
To support, be involved and empowered to support different organizations and different meanings. To your point,
Exactly. Yeah.
makes total sense. So, next question is around resources.
Mhm.
Maybe things that you have used in your entrepreneurial journey. Some examples are, of course, books, podcasts, or even, mobile apps on your phone. And
Yeah.
maybe it can be anything from budgeting and finance, everybody's favorite, to something more mental health related, or, leadership or growth, or design, obviously for you. But
Yeah.
anyways, are there any books, podcasts, apps, or any other resources that you want to share?
I feel like there are too many books to mention, but I would say if I wanted to name like one person that I definitely recommend everyone, no matter what they're doing, to follow, is Seth Godin. I think he's a marketer, but he sort of redefined marketing. I think, and his podcast is amazing. His books are bestsellers, so that they're amazing, and it's one of those things that you don't really it doesn't belong to one industry. Like no matter what you're doing, that's probably the best person to follow. Um, um, what else? I would honestly say like just also following other people. I feel like in fashion or in marketing, just like seeing what people are doing and not just thinking, let's say like because in the industry that I'm working in, I'm pretty much not everyone, but pretty much like 80-90% of people or 90% of brands are enemies because we're in high-end fashion. So almost no brand is like it's all about the glamour and also all about trends. So everyone is pretty much the enemy. But like seeing how we can learn from the enemies, what they're doing actually right, was I think was also very beneficial. And how to like steal the ideas and see how we can change it and sort of make it better.
Perfect, great. And that kind of goes into the next question, which is centered around inspiration. But before we jump ahead to that, I
Yeah,
think you were talking about Seth Godin's podcast. Just looked it up quickly. It's called Akimbo.
exactly.
Anybody
Yeah.
can find that. But before we jump on to inspiration, what that means to you, or where you source inspiration internally or externally, are there
Mhm.
any tools or anything else that you want to mention? No pressure.
Yeah. I would say definitely like doing a lot of thinking, a lot of because for in our case, it's the design part is not really the main focus, and the stories are the main focus. The design part is, I we have I know designers that I get feedbacks from. We've worked with designers in the past, but honestly, like for us at least, that's not the focus. So it's more about the stories, and I get inspired from just people, just talking to people, and talking to people, reading books, watching videos, and like how people react to different things, and just because we're invested in those stories, and that's what we focus on. So it's pretty much just everything in daily life. Um, but yeah, for design, I would say but just like designers that we know, and also the specialists that we work with, how they like the past work they've had, there are things that they're working on right now. But again, like for us, the stories are the focus, and like that's the hardest part for us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Where you and the company are sourcing inspiration from is really behind, again, the meanings and the stories behind, in advance of, the product or the thing or the design. It's much deeper than that. So here we are. Last question for you. Last conversation starter, as we like to say,
yeah,
is you can take it as, do you giving folks advice, wisdom, tips, lessons you've learned along the way, and you might be speaking to someone who is currently working a 9 to 5, that has a burning passion, and that's, they want to. You might be speaking to that person. You also might be speaking to somebody who's been an entrepreneur forever and is going to, look at selling their business.
yeah.
Wide spread of different folks you're speaking to here, and it's highly personalized. But are there any advice, wisdom, tips, tricks, anything that you want to share?
I'm not sure if I'm in a position to give advice, but what I would say is that I think if you don't believe in something that you're trying to start, you're not gonna get that far because it's just too hard. Like there's no way you can put up with it just because not only you're investing financially, but emotionally and physically. Like it's a non-stop 24/7, and if you're not loving it, there's no way you can survive. Um, but also there's again, like going back to Seth Godin, he has a book called The Dip, and he talks about like how much people like how many people are just so many people are just so close to the peak, but they just can't see it, and they just see the dip, and just gotta get through it. And sometimes that just feels much longer than you want it to be. But just it's the way it is. Especially, I think the harder the topics or the things that you're trying to solve, the deeper that dip is going to be, the longer it's going to be. Like for example, for the what we were doing, because going into it, I know it was going to be a very long journey, and I think it turned out to be true, because we're trying to solve big problems, but you just got to be comfortable with it, and like it's not a year or two, like it's not and I think also financially, it doesn't quite make sense to do it. Like the rewards you're gonna get financially, it's gonna just be so far in the future. And again, like if you're not loving it, there's no way you can even get to like the second year, third year, let alone like after 5, 7, 10 years to actually get that financial reward.
Yeah, perfect. So I think what we heard is make sure that the entrepreneurial spirit or entrepreneurial spark that people talk about is something of deep meaning and passion to you. And then
Exactly.
off the back of that is being very honest and real with yourself, and maybe having other people around you that also cultivate that sense of honesty and transparency in how difficult things are going to be, physically, financially, emotionally, and having those
Exactly.
conversations and thoughts beforehand, and then helping you dive right in.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense, and it's a lot of great tips and tricks. And yeah, you haven't been the first one to say, well, advice, I don't know if I really want to be framing as giving advice. So we completely understand, but thank you nonetheless for giving those insights, if you want to put it that way. So with that being said, before we let people know where they can find you, where they can find your business online and on Instagram, is there anything else you want to share with those people, with everyone who's listening, in terms of announcements or really anything? The floor is yours to finish off.
I would just say that just think about the decisions that you're making on a daily basis, because it affects people. And because I've been to places and I've seen the effect it's our decisions are making. And even though like it seems like for example, talking about like choosing not to vegan products, or not even fashion, but like in different industries, whatever we like, we have power. And if you're not even if like there's no way right now, especially with the internet, there's no way that people don't know about the facts of their actions. So just like taking a moment when you're buying something, when you're renting something, whatever you're doing, taking a moment to just seeing if it's having any effect on anyone that you can't see specifically, on the other side of the world. You have no idea what's happening to them, because it's just we all have, I think we're all involved indirectly in what's happening to them.
Well, absolutely, Maddie. You're preaching to the choir in terms of the green economy, voting with your money, and ensuring that you're right. It is on all of us to take a second thought and a step back to what we might be buying, especially if there are people, animals, human or non-human, who might be affected on the other end. So thank you so much for sharing
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So, all right, folks. Well, you can find out more online, www.segan.earth, and it's vegan with an S, so Segan.earth, which is, you can remember that, Segan.earth. And on Instagram, the handle is at SeganHQ. So thank you so much. This has been another episode of Veg Networking Canada, a community where vegan plant-based companies connect and collaborate. Today's episode was a great conversation with the design director and founder of Segan. Thank you so much for your time and all the success to you, your team, your company in the future. Thank you so much, Mahdi Terani.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you on another episode of Veg Networking Canada soon. Bye for now.
Bye.